Hello again, dear viewer. I've been up to my neck in code for the last month and hopefully the results are worth it, which is up to you to decide. If you are new to my channel and want to know what it's all about, Alchemist is my roguelike RPG project with heavy emphasis on consumables and crafting. I also encourage you to see a playlist of my previous logs, as this video only covers the latest additions. Health bar is an addition impossible to miss. I decided to stick with the established color scheme of light blue, steel grey and black that I kept using so far, hence the unorthodox choice of color. But what use is health bar if you can't take damage? I ended the last video standing in fire, unharmed. No longer the case, as you can see. Fire burns, causing a damage over time effect, and so do your own explosive potions if you are careless. Play with fire too much and you die. The soul leaves your cold lifeless body, etc. Death causes the restart of the game, making you lose all progress. I have some plans to add a life system, and even have an idea of how to fit it into the story, but that's a topic for when that part is done. Status effects like burning are displayed in game HUD as tiny icons, and there is also a special interface to see them in more details, with both duration and description listed. Before we move on to other effects, how about some fireworks? That was gunpowder. Now it has a chance to spawn as barrel content, and it causes an explosion identical to fireball whenever it's affected by fire, which can lead to some awesome detonations. You can also take the gunpowder from barrel, and it will no longer explode, just burn normally. Now, those explosions might be satisfying to watch, but in no way their looks represent how much code had to be altered for them to work. Which actually has more to do with the way I implemented animations than with explosions themselves. From what I see, roguelikes generally tend to struggle with animations. Not with visuals, rather with synchronization of real-time animations and game-time events. Tom, for instance, has enemies dying before the spells visually hit them. In Alona, there are often unskippable sequences of long animations that you don't even see because they happen off-screen. In case of Cut, they recently added attack animations, and it sometimes happens that an enemy is dead but its animation is still playing, which hilariously leads to an empty cell attacking its target. I'm not criticizing those games for that, by the way, rather expressing my sympathy because now I share the pain with their developers. My initial idea was to queue animations as in-game events progress, then play them in real time. Whenever player took action, animation queue was dropped, which allowed, for example, to move again without waiting for the previous movement animation to end. Which kind of worked, but caused a lot of desynchronization, especially with log messages. I either had to queue not just animations but all visual output and separate it rigidly from events that happen instantly, or make a different system. I settled on using callback functions that were called whenever animation ended naturally or was skipped due to player input. Like here, explosion is a callback tied to the flying battle animation's end. If I skip it, explosion still happens, but the animation doesn't. But for some reason I still didn't let go of the whole animation queue concept, and even kept adding things to the queue while also using callbacks from time to time. It made me question my own sanity when I understood that I managed to use two different systems for the same purpose within the same code. On top of that, animations being in a queue meant that two of them never play simultaneously, and in the case of explosive barrels, they would explode one by one in a very silly way, while also taking a lot of time. Of course, I scrapped the whole queue idea and just let them play all at once. Callbacks have me covered, in case I need some animation to happen after the other one is finished. But now there was another problem that I blissfully ignored before. You see, with player I can always assume that animations are complete, since whenever the player acts, the game skips them. What I forgot about when implementing game time is that animations can be caused by something other than player, case in point, burning fire causing a barrel to explode. Those two should be resolved before you can proceed with game time, which I initially didn't think of. It caused some of the weirdest crashes, and when I realized what happened, I panicked because it sounded like a fundamental flaw in game's architecture. Which it wasn't, of course, I only needed some tweaks to how the game time was processed. So now all animations play as intended, and the game automatically syncs the game time events with real time, allowing you to skip all of the remaining animations whenever you make a turn, just like before. Let's return to features now. Hopefully that previous part wasn't too boring. Fire was changed to be drawn over the burning object rather than replacing it, as people have suggested to me. It's not just a graphical change, but mechanical one too, as now if you douse the fire before it has burnt out, whatever was burning can be saved. New Rhyme Potion does just that, and it also freezes whatever creatures get hit by it, reducing their speed. which in case of our character can be seen on the character screen. And I like how both this icy shader and the one for burning turned out. Also, if you are frozen, fire will remove this effect and vice versa. And because I can't possibly ever focus on a single feature, this new potion comes with a new recipe, new alchemic ingredient and a new object that serves as its source. I imagined a small rocky pool that was filled slowly with glacial water dripping from above, and it was unironically fun to search for a picture that would represent it. I settled on this photo and added a ripple effect to show the dripping water. It also gives off light based on ambient brightness to emulate water reflecting the sky. It's pretty subtle, almost unnoticeable, but I like it. After you take the water, the pool refills in one day. Glacial water can be distilled into something boreal and brewed into a rime potion. With status effects implemented, I was able to finalize other potions too. Shockwave potion causes affected targets to be stunned for 3 turns. Clairvoyance potion is actually completely different now. Now it lets you see through walls for its duration, which will hopefully be useful in a completed game. It's also the way I wanted it to be from the very start, but couldn't do without a good way to track temporary effects. Another minor change related to potions is throw calculation. Previously it allowed you to throw onto walls, now only next to them. I think it makes more sense this way. Also, throw is now independent from movement, so you can throw over barrels for example, even though you can't move through them. At this point I'd like to talk about personal things a little, rather than just game features. I'll be showcasing the more simple and self-explanatory additions while doing that. As it is now, Alchemist is by far my most developed project, and while it's still far from completed, it can no longer be seen as this funny prototype that it once was. I feel personally responsible for it, both because of people who showed some care and because of sheer amount of time I spent with it. The one thing I fear the most is never finishing Alchemist. The other I fear is it not being good enough. And I would be the only one to blame, because I am the one who picks art, designs the game, the UI, and also the one who writes code. I feel strained because of that. I quite possibly devote Alchemist enough effort to call it my second job, but for obvious reasons it's not one. I just hope I can make it, and hope it will be good enough when I do. Thus, another major feature set that lays the groundwork for enemies to be added is complete. I'm going to take a small break and record a video unrelated to Alchemist but related to roguelikes, and then I'll get to implementing creatures, AI and combat properly. See you next time.